5+5 white game against a 1970. Okay. I actually just played a 7-move game where my opponent blundered a piece outright and resigned. So rating is up to 21-29 now. We get to play another Scotch. Okay, and then they're playing this line. So this is the weird one, where we go knight c3, bishop b4. And then I think we sacrifice the pawn starting with, is it bishop to e2? Or is it bishop to, no, sorry, not bishop to e2. That would blunder the knight on d4. But this is the footnote. We don't have a line to train this, just that we recognize it is a strange possibility that white can play. So I believe it is bishop to e2, because then we take on c6, we castle. No, we don't take on c6. We're supposed to have something with knight b5. That's the one. But how exactly do we wrangle that? As I try to remember our line. Because we can't leave our knight hanging on d4, obviously. Yeah, I think the point is if they take, we actually play knight b5 first. We don't need to castle. There's not a threat to take on g2 because there would be bishop to f3. They can take on c3, but that's not supposed to change anything, if I recall. And it ends up being we sacrifice this pawn, and we're supposed to get a large initiative playing as white. Because, yeah, it takes knight b5, I think it's king d8, and then just castles. So I'm not sure if that's the end of the line. Maybe the note we include, there's a capture on c3, but again, that doesn't really change anything. Not for my main purpose, at least, which is this threat to make sure they can't castle because they move their king. And they perhaps have not seen this either if they're taking as long as I did, which is good because that means I should know this better than they do, assuming that I am correct with this. So not too much to say on move 6. If you like, you can tell me who you're rooting for in the candidates. Sindarov on his massive hot streak. I believe it should be knight b5. Personally, I'm still rooting for Caruana, but he unfortunately suffered a fairly large setback today. But does still have a game against Sindarov, which you would probably call must-win. And if not, it will be a very young World Championship match. I think for both of them, you can argue catching fire at the right time. I don't know if Sindarov can, well, certainly not the performance he's had in the candidates, sustain this level. Okay, so this I would figure we probably just castle. Or do we have a way of diverting this queen? Play f4. And then do they have a way to stay connected to this pawn? Because my knight's protected on b5, and bishop takes, pawn takes, the knight still protects c3. I think f4 might be the move. Because they haven't very securely protected that pawn. It's a little risky, of course, but I don't see a good refutation. Or are they going to argue they move their queen somewhere and just keep watch of the snipe? But no, like bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, there'd be a bishop d2, so my rook is protected by the queen. Let's go for it. Yeah, the queen just doesn't have great squares. They've moved it too many times already for move. Well, they've only played 7 moves. So I think this is their 4th queen move out of 8. Not a good opening habit. They were trying something trappy, but do remember at least part of the refutation. And yeah, I think just knight takes c7. My king's not in a ton of danger. So let's go grab some material. They'll still have to do some work to catch that knight, and then as white will just have to be a little bit careful with the king, but I really don't think it should be that bad. Like, we're up, at least temporarily, a full rook. And again, this is where I was saying bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, we have bishop d2, and then we're not losing the rook on a1, even though at the moment it is unprotected. If not, then I'm not entirely sure what my development is. I can't play queen d5, unfortunately, because bishop takes knight would be check and remove my queen's defender. Knight d4. I don't think I can get away with bishop e3. I mean, it's tempting because it forces an exchange of something. If they play like a knight takes c2, queen takes, queen takes. I don't think I want to go for that. I can't castle because they'd have a very nasty discovered check. Could play just bishop d2 and then try to move the knight. They're a long way from getting a rook to e8, which is one of the only things that would be of concern. Could play bishop d3. Could play queen d3. I think I had that thought in mind before, just that if I have to keep it protecting c2 rather than something like queen c4, that's not brilliant. Also, no, I can't play a3 because now the threat, I realize, is bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, and even if I block the check, they are attacking c2 again. So I think I should go with bishop d2 first. Overprotect that knight, and then I can play a3, was my other thought. Yeah, especially if they do this, I think that's helpful, because their bishop can't retreat all that far. So we can be prepared to take back here. If they take on e2, that's great, just queen takes, and again, they can't teleport their rook over. And I wonder if they will have to consider a threat of a white bishop landing on b4, since their king has chosen f8. The knight's hanging, so I would figure knight c6. Because otherwise, yeah, we do have... well, they are giving me a choice. Do I take a free knight, or do I win a queen? I think we have to say winning a queen is better. Knight takes c2 doesn't work because just queen takes, and their queen is pinned. So that looks like it should be a game winner. And I'm not worried about the knight on e8. It did a great job. Well, then, it looks like a couple of quick games today. Yeah, fair resignation, losing a queen. So let's double check our theory, because I think we were accurate up to here. I think knight b5 is correct. So let's pull it up. This is technically in the Scotch chapter. Play d4, takes, and then this very strange queen h4. Did I not include it in this file? I may not have. So I might be reproducing this on the spot. We had this move, right? It was move 4. Yeah, move 4, queen h4. So yeah, knight c3, bishop b4, because with the knight being pinned, this pawn is under attack. So this is where it gets tricky to remember, but yes, I did come up correctly with bishop b2, which I knew I was going to play bishop b2. I was just trying to work out the follow-up details after that. Take, and then we do correctly play knight to b5. So that's where we were up to here on move 7. So good recall up to there, and then they did something that they were not supposed to. Queen e5, and actually, sorry, I should leave that for the game tab. But normally it would go bishop takes, pawn takes, because we need to keep this knight on c7. I think the note ends king d8 and castles, and white is just, well, on top. It's going to be a challenge for this king, even though they are currently up a pawn. So that was what the theory looked like, but as it was, we got queen e5. And yeah, f4 works. Could also play g3. That would be to set up bishop to f4, once that's propped up, but f4 does work. So that was the first other key moment. We grab that, we grab that. Yeah, I do think king d8 makes a lot more sense. I guess you can see in the statistics as well, when people do get here, it's almost universal. As we saw in the game, that should be a little safer for the king. Even though it's in the center, I think it's just a lot easier for them to play something like knight f6 and rook e8. I think that's the important point, is they need to be able to get pieces out if they want to keep on fighting. But king f8 really blocks up their king side. Then we can play bishop e3. Okay, I was thinking about, I believe it was knight takes c2. And it is worth remembering I am up a whole rook, so I can absolutely afford to give up only really a pawn. Like, it's not even really a tactic for black in this scenario. So we could have done that as well, but bishop d2 is also good. I mentioned, I think, not a3 right here, or something to this effect, because of takes, and then knight c2, which I guess maybe doesn't even really work, but that is what I was thinking of. Hard to keep track of exactly what the material is, but I think our point is that we are still up a rook, so even if we give back on a1... Yeah, I was thinking about what the exchanges look like here, if maybe we could trap the knight, but it is another good point, actually, that we could take here. And then I wonder if there's some kind of mating attack if they take the rook. Yeah, that gets very off track, but bishop d2 was just to reinforce on c3. b6 is just very slow. They're down, again, a full rook, so they need to play a lot faster. They kind of missed that their bishop is completely stuck, and then they especially missed that bishop b4 is the biggest threat. I'm also surprised they didn't realize this knight was being attacked. So just knight c6. Wasn't sure if I would play maybe knight c7 while I have the moment. Could also just play queen d3, castle queenside. But yeah, bishop e7 just loses the game to bishop e4. So nice quick game. I don't think there's too much else to add to that, just that we have this little trick for the rare occasions. What are we checking in at? About 2%, where black tries this queen h4. Yeah, the first move is easy, knight c3, and then just remembering this block the check in advance, and then knight b5. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So thanks for watching what will end up being a shorter video. See you next time.